Hello and welcome to the Pages of Light podcast, your destination for discussions of popular fantasy and science fiction novels from a Christian worldview. My name is Tyler, aka Verum, and with me as always is Gabriel, aka the Quarantine Quartermaster. Welcome back to the podcast, Gabe.
Good to be here. Excited to talk about the Wheel of Time. Round 3. Hey, this is our first time doing 3 episodes on one book. I'm kind of impressed.
3 episodes. So the first 2 episodes, if you did not listen to or watch those, were talking about mostly like the whole plot and storyline of the first book of the Wheel of Time, which is called The Eye of the World. And it's a pretty long book, so it took us a while to get through all of the plot points, and you had to leave room for a few like side quests, of course, on the podcast. So
and that's okay.
Yes, that's okay. So we had to do one more episode here. And so today we're just basically going to be talking about a lot of the character stuff. So we'll just look at all of the main characters, some of the side characters, and some of like the various enemies. We'll just see how far we get, and if we still have time after that, we'll talk a little bit about world building and some of the stuff that we enjoyed with that aspect of the Wheel of Time, because the first book in the series always has a ton of world building because you have to lay the foundation for your entire story. 14 books this series is, so there's lots of stuff to cover and lots of history and all sorts of little things that are revealed throughout the story. So that's going to be our game plan for this episode. And as of recording this, the Wheel of Time TV show is still going on right now. So I think 6 episodes are out right now. And so in 2 weeks, the season 1 should be done. So, and then we'll also plan to do an episode just on the TV show, the first season, just giving our thoughts on that.
Oh, and I have some thoughts.
Yes, I'm sure you have some thoughts. I definitely have some thoughts from what I've seen so far. So we will avoid talking about any of those show-related things in this episode, and we'll save all of that stuff for its own podcast whenever the season is all done. And because sometimes you're like, well, why didn't they do this thing? Well, the season's not over yet, so let's just wait, give the whole season some time, and then we'll go from there. So all right, so let's just jump in. So main characters. So where a better place to start than Rand al'Thor. He is, I guess he's the main character because he has the most viewpoint chapters, and we're mostly in his head throughout the whole story. So, and from what I've heard, it's basically like that for the first 3 books until some of the other characters get a little bit more fleshed out later in the series. So, but for this first book, it's definitely mostly all Rand. And I don't know, what did you think of Rand as a character? Do you like him? Do you hate him?
He's a good old farm boy. He's
that's right.
And he's also the Dragon Reborn. You know, he's all things.
Sheep herder and Dragon Reborn. That's gonna be his Twitter profile.
able to channel the power. I mean, there wouldn't be a book series if it wasn't the Dragon Reborn right here. So
that's right.
So I think that you can't get more remote than like the 2 rivers, it seems like, know, on the edge of Manetheren, the lands there, and like just bringing this, he's an innocent basically at the beginning. Like he's not a person who has like killed, or like the worst thing he's done is like played some jokes on like the girls in the village. Like that's like the worst thing he's done. So it's going to be interesting to watch his to becoming basically the most powerful male on the planet and how he's going to be wielding the power and how this is going to change him, because he can't stay the same. And we already see him starting to change, and he starts to, fight with his sword a little bit in this book, and he is just going to bud. He is not and he's going to go through his metamorphosis, all the cliches all at once. He's going to really change, and I just like that we're starting with him as a character who's an innocent, and he's going to move towards, he's Taviran, so he kind of changes the world around him and kind of sparks events going on close by. So I think he's a good character, and I'm interested to see where his storyline goes over the next series of books. Yeah. What did you think, Tyler, aka Verum?
Yeah, I will say, as of recording this, I'm almost done with the second book, The Great Hunt, so I kind of like have a little bit of foreknowledge, and I think you've finished the second book, haven't you?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So we do have a bit of foreknowledge as to what happens later with some of these characters, so I'll try to like just keep my thoughts to like what happened in the first book. But yeah, you mentioned he's like an innocent and like kind of naive character in a way because he's from such like a remote village, and I don't know if that's like, I guess that's like a cliche, and like, because Lord of the Rings kind of has that with Frodo and the hobbits, like they're these innocent people who have to go on this adventure. And I think there's something to be said about like the people who are the most innocent and like good-hearted kind of people when they go on, like they're the type of characters that make good heroes because they have that innocence and that good-willed nature about themselves. Like they haven't been like corrupted by the world and like the way of the world, and so they want to try and like do the right thing in a way. Now some of the Emmons Field characters like don't fit into that box. Like Matt's kind of like a troublemaker, and we don't really know a lot about like Perrin's personality just yet, but like Rand is kind of like I think he's been brought up like with Tam, who has like, he was away in the war that we find out because he has that heron mark blade, so he must have been involved in something pretty crazy. So I think he's kind of like brought him up in a way that's like trying to shield him from like the bad things of the world. And I don't know, that might just say something about like those type of characters make really good heroes because they are always trying to do the right thing no matter what the cost of it is, and like they haven't like really seen the consequences of what like making the wrong decision could turn out to be.
Sure. That word is, I think it's integrity. Yeah, doing the right thing even when no one's looking.
Yeah. And I think Rand just kind of like embodies that. Like he wants to do the right thing all the time. Which can be to your detriment sometimes. Like you're always trying to do the right thing, but that might hurt you in some ways. So I mean, I really like Rand. I think he has an interesting backstory, him looking like an Aielman, and how that will play in like his later character development. And yeah, I don't know. Do you have any other thoughts on Rand?
No, I just think that he's just this, like we said already, he's just a solid character. He never gives up on Matt.
True.
And he's always thinking about his friends. I think that, he's just I think Robert Jordan did a really good job of making him a down-to-earth, like more focused on relationships and not on like possessions and stuff. And he's, he's a good character.
Yeah, and I also think Rand is kind of like a reluctant hero. Like he doesn't want necessarily the responsibility.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree.
What being the Dragon Reborn will entail, and I'll just say like this continues in the second book for sure. Like he's constantly like not wanting to take responsibility and like have this fact that's true about him be true about him, and he wants to like kind of run away in a sense.
Yep.
And so, but you can definitely see like the beginnings of that in this first book, where he kind of feels like it is true, but he's like, I don't really want this responsibility. But I think in the end, and I don't know this yet, but I think in the end he's going to be a character who does accept this responsibility and who really like takes ownership of all of that it means. And again, he's a character who always wants to do the right thing. So if he feels like this is the thing that he needs to do to help save like his friends or the people that are around him, like I think he's going to do it, even if it's not something that he would have chosen for himself necessarily.
And now I got to build off that, because I think that's a really good observation. I definitely agree that he is a reluctant hero, and he's trying to not come to grips with this. He's kind of running from it, but
Yeah.
at the same time, I feel like those are the people that the people who don't want power and the people who
Yes.
don't want responsibility. Like their heart's in the right place. So like he doesn't want to be this big showy, dragon reborn.
Yeah.
There's so many rumors flying around about what that could be. But there is a part of Christianity that's just like, you don't want the limelight. You don't want to be the center. You want to be the kind of the dependable person who's always there and, ready to take on what's next for the Lord. And, and if you make it all about yourself, which I've done in the past, plenty, just all about me, that's not a good posture, for a Christian. It's more about how can I serve? How can I take care of the things that I'm responsible for? I think being a Christian is about taking responsibility, which is kind of like the opposite of what we're talking about Rand. I think he's just not ready. But I mean, that's a lot of our stories. We're not ready when responsibility comes our way, and we have to recognize. I mean, I know some people who just continue to run, and I just see them, and I'm just like, like you make yourself so busy so you don't have to come to grips with the reality of your life. You just like always jumping from thing to thing to thing. It's when we sit down and we say like, I'm responsible for this, and I need to take the time that it takes to like do it well. That's when you can have a lot of personal growth, and I think God wants to see that for us.
Yeah.
Side quest complete.
That's a good word there. And if we want to kind of keep like we were talking a lot about in the other episodes, the parallels to Lord of the Rings. And I think Rand is kind of almost a hybrid between Frodo and Aragorn. Like he has the naivety of Frodo and all the hobbits, but he has like the reluctancy of like Aragorn, who doesn't want to be the king. He doesn't want to take the responsibility of being king of Gondor. And so he's been like avoiding that his whole life. But when the time is right, Aragorn, he has to decide this. He either has to become who he was born to be, or he has to let his friends die and Middle Earth fall. So in that moment, he has to make an important decision. And there might be a decision like that for Rand in the future, where he has to decide, am I going to be the person I was born to be, or am I going to falter and I guess choose no responsibility and like the easy way out, I guess, even though it might result in bad things happening.
Yeah.
All right. That's enough on Rand. Let's move on to, I guess, I don't know if he has a better friend, if Perrin or Matt are better friends than one or the other, but let's talk about Matt, who's like the troublemaker, the gambler, and
the mischievous one,
the treasure seeker, much to his demise in the first book. And yeah, I don't know. I liked Matt. I think he's he doesn't really get a lot of screen time because he gets that dagger and he's just like, like a soggy log for the whole book. Like he doesn't really do anything.
Yeah, you're kind of right like that. He doesn't get a lot of. We're not privy to what he's thinking.
Yes.
He's just more of a companion, sort of, with Rand for the majority of the book.
Yeah, but all three of them are like involved in those dreams. So there's something special about each of the three, Rand, Matt, and Perrin. And so I'm looking forward to like seeing more of like what is special about Matt. I think this was actually said in the show, not in the book, but I've watched the show recently, so I'm just thinking about it. But like in one scene, Moraine says something like Matt has a lot of power in him, or else that the dagger would have like killed him essentially like weeks ago. So that like gives me a hint that there's something about Matt, like there's some kind of power involved with Matt, whether that's some kind of dark power or some kind of good power. I'm not sure yet. But Yeah, he's definitely an interesting character. We just don't really get a lot of insight into who he is as a character in this first book. So I don't know, it's kind of hard to say like a ton about him. Other than that, he likes to find treasure and get cursed.
Yeah, I think Matt. Yeah, like you said, we don't know too much about him. But what we do know is that he's another farm boy. He lived in the Two Rivers. Outdoorsy life, and then like, Rand comments or something in his brain that like, Matt's kind of like the kid who never grew up. He still wants to play pranks on people. He covered the dogs in flour, and they like ran all through the house, and like he caught a beating for that. And he was like, I got you. And he, uses his sling to get the white cloaks all dirty at the beginning of the book. And that's where Rand has that kind of showdown with Bornhold of the white cloaks. And then he goes running through the, fools rush in where angels fear to tread sort of thing. In Shadar Logoth, he's just like, yeah, let's go run through here. No Trollocs are here. Yeah, but let's ask, why aren't the Trollocs here? If they don't want to go in here, why would we want to be in here?
Yes.
So yeah, he's kind of definitely very impulsive.
He's always pushing the boundaries.
Always pushing the boundaries, trying to crack a joke. But yeah, we do know that he is Taviran, which sets him apart from like 99.9% of the rest of the population in the book.
Yeah,
it's that he's Taviran, and so is Rand, and so is Perrin. And we know the supernatural end. We said this in the other podcast that Rand is the Dragon Reborn, can channel the One Power, and Perrin has night vision and wolf sense and telecommunication with the wolves.
Yeah.
They send their little pictures back and forth to one another. So, yeah, again, what is Matt? He's kind of the mystery here. We don't know.
Yeah.
But he's got the dagger, and that's like part of his like identity as a person is he's the one with the dagger.
Yep.
Because that's what Beelzebub shows him
in the dream.
In the dreams and stuff. And
that's what he sees in the dream. He sees those three. Isn't it? Yeah. I don't remember.
There's a point at the end of the book where there's like 3 wax figurines, and Matt picks up the one with the dagger. So it's definitely part of his identity, and it's just unraveling what it is.
Yeah. Very good. And you mentioned Perrin just a second ago there, so let's just jump into him. And yeah, Perrin is like the quiet. He's really like, he's like a hunk, I guess. He's really big, but he's very quiet. And,
all those hours swinging them heavy,
swinging the blacksmith
metal shaping
hammer.
tools.
That's right.
Yeah.
And yeah, as you said, he's like, I think they call it a wolf brother. I think that's the term.
Yeah, wolf brother
for what he is. And I think that's just a really cool idea, and that he can kind of commune with like different animals. I'm watching, I was talking to you earlier about this before we started recording, about Star Wars Rebels, and there's a character, his name's Ezra Bridger. He's like the main character in the series, and he kind of has this thing with the Force where he's really good at like communing with animals and like understanding how they feel. And there's like animals in the show that will like help him get out of situations, like they know a way out or stuff like that, where and I think that's very similar to like how Perrin is. Like he almost has this ability. It's not the Force, of course, but he has this ability. I don't know if it could be through like the One Power in some way, or that's something that's making the connection between those two, the wolves and Perrin. Maybe we'll find out more specifics about how that connection works in later books. But yeah, I just like that he like kind of has these allies in the wolves, and they come to his aid, of course, when they're captured by the Children of the Light with Egwene. And I think it's just really, he's a cool character. Again, like with Matt, we don't get a ton of screen time with him, so I'll be happy to get more like point of view chapters with him, where we're gonna get to see his inner thoughts as well, and like how that connection with the wolves works a little bit more. So yeah, I don't know. What do you think of Perrin?
He's our third farm boy. Just hanging out with Master Luhan, shaping some steel every day, all day. And he's got all of his muscles, and he becomes a wolf brother. And I think they say like, so I don't think it has something to do with the one power. I think Elias at one point in the book goes like, "This is an old thing, boy."
Oh, yes, yeah, you're right. I do remember that. Yes.
And I have the voice acting to pull upon like different character. The same like. There's a male reader and a female reader in this book series, and they have the voices, and the voices help me recall who said what. Yeah, because Loyal has this sort of slow sort of speaking in the book. But Elias is like, this is an old thing, boy. And that reminds me of when in
The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Thank you.
I got you.
Yes.
I know wherever you were going.
Yep. Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, because Aslan says something along the lines of like, this is the old magic written into the universe before, time itself.
Yep.
Wow. I'm really impressed that you picked up on that brainwave, because I was totally blanking, and I don't think anyone else would have been like, oh yeah, the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. So
Exactly.
Nicely done. Okay, good job.
Yeah, because you said it's like an old power, and then you said it's like, and I was like, what else is it like? Ah, yes, that scene in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Yes.
Yeah, and so the Aes Sedai are obsessed with knowledge and figuring things out, and then there's I don't think it's in this book, but there's a point where they're like saying, is this an old thing, or is this something new? Mm-hmm. So old things can come again because it's the wheel of time, and so something that happened long ago. And then there's new things, and then it's also in like a lot of the knowledge in the breaking of the world has been forgotten. So there's no way to know if it's a new thing coming or an old thing come again, or if it's something new, indicating the dawn of a new age. And they keep talking about how there's going to be a dawn of a new age here, and we know that Rand is bringing that about because he's Taviran and he's the Dragon Reborn. Yep. There's definitely some things I think we're going to learn about this universe where they are not tied to the one power, but they're still like gifts that people can have, but they're not tied to the one power.
Yeah. Very good. Now we can move on to the two women that are a part of the party. So we have Egwene. Sorry. I'm sure some people say it differently, though. Egwene and Nynaeve. And I kind of liked the beginning of whenever they left Emmons Field, where Egwene was like, "You're going on an adventure? I'm coming." It's like she didn't really have like a reason to come. She was just like, I want to go because it sounds fun, I guess. And I don't know, I kind of like that about her. Like she's like adventurous, like she wants to try new things and she wants to like experience new things. And I think that's one of the reasons why she's more like excited about being an Aes Sedai or someone who can channel, whereas Nynaeve is more of like the reluctant, like I don't want anything to do with this stuff, and she wants to go back home. So there's like Egwene and Nynaeve are kind of like opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of like how they want to like experience life. Like Egwene is like always wanting to like go on the adventure and try new things, and Nynaeve is like, let's go home and not do any of that and we'll just live our normal lives. And
yes, but they're also both very motivated by like taking care of people. Like I think Egwene is like you're going on this adventure, you woolhead, and you need someone there to help you out. And,
sure.
And Nynaeve is like, get your butts back to the village. Yep. Like it's my responsibility to see you back there. And she's all mad all the time.
Yep.
I just she just um and then her and Lan,
Yeah.
like like what happened there? Like
Yeah.
that kind of just came out of left field for me. Like all of a sudden they're like all interested in each other, and I was like,
Yes.
what? Because Lan is like a rock. But here's Nynaeve, and she like gets to talk to him, and I mean they're obviously interested in each other. I mean that's the way.
Yeah, I think that's just because like
it.
she doesn't want to spend time with the Aes Sedai, so she'll just spend time with the Warder, who's like more, I guess I don't think Nynaeve is like hot-headed, and Rand is like, or not Rand, Lan is very like stoic. So I guess they kind of like offset each other in a way, and he can kind of like keep her in check in a way. So could be
sort of
interesting.
The opposites attract there.
Yeah, it could be an interesting relationship. I wonder if like in whenever these books were first coming out in the 90s, where people like, because you know how today they have like in book series or TV shows, people are like shipping certain people, or like, oh, I think they would be good together, and then some people think they would be better off with somebody else. I wonder if there was any of that dynamic like back in the day whenever these books are coming out, like what people thought about
Edward and Team Jacob from the Twilight series. Yeah, and people made T-shirts. That was like the first time that became like big.
Yeah, Team Gale or Team PETA from Hunger Games. So.
Oh yeah.
There's not really a competitor right now, I guess, with Lan, but I don't know. We'll just have to see where that goes.
Maybe there's Team Egwene.
Just by herself.
For Rand.
Oh, Lan and Egwene? No, but Egwene's supposed to be with Rand.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Rand with Egwene.
Yes.
Sorry, that's the only because like he's a main character, and I feel like that's usually where it stems from, like the main character. I feel like Egwene would be the one. Okay. And then she's got plenty of competition. She's got like all these girls like Rand. Like Elaine, the heir to the throne, and the farm girl with whose mom is very upset that the boys are making her daughter look at them that way, and Perrin is the best at talking to girls, and I wish he was here.
But Egwene had that guy with the traveling folk. That was very sad. That she had to leave.
Aram, yep.
Aram, yeah.
The way of the leaf.
The way of the leaf. Anyway, we digress, talking about Wheel of Time relationships. But yeah, I like Egwene, and I also like Nynaeve a lot. I think I like kind of the aspect of like it's her emotions that is what causes her to channel, and I'm kind of thinking of a scene from the show where they show that very explicitly, but I'll keep that out of the discussion for now.
You're having trouble compartmentalizing.
I am having trouble just because like it's just
the second book, the show, and you're like, I can't talk about it.
I'm trying to keep all these storylines straight in my head, so it's hard for me to like just keep it in like this is only things that happened in book one. I can't bring in any more external knowledge. It's too hard. It's too hard.
You just got to be who you are.
I know.
Just let it flow. Just let it flow.
That's okay. All that to say is I do like the whole set of like the Emmons Field 5 as like a group. I think they all bring like unique perspectives and unique ideas, and they're all unique people, and they all have different cool personalities, and I think all of them make like a really good cast of characters. Sort of again like the hobbits from Lord of the Rings. Like you have Frodo. I mean, Frodo doesn't really have like that much of a personality, to be honest. He's kind of just like he's the ring bearer and that's all he does. But then you have like Samwise, who's like the loyal friend. You have Pippin, who's like the kind of like the troublemaker. Yeah, Pippin's kind of like the troublemaker, like Matt, where he's always getting himself into bad situations because he's too curious, I guess, usually most of the time.
And impulsive.
Yeah, and impulsive. So, and then I guess I don't know. Merry's kind of like a serious, and he's kind of always trying to keep Pippin in check, although sometimes Pippin kind of drags him into his nefarious things that's going on. So yeah,
Sure.
the Lord of the Rings parallels continue. Okay, now that we're done with the Emmons Field people, let's talk a little bit about some of the other side characters. So first of all, Moraine is probably the biggest side character, and she is of course the Aes Sedai who comes to Emmons Field and is looking for the Dragon Reborn, and she finds all these Emmons Fielders who are Taveran and takes them on this journey. And yeah, what did you think of Moraine? I think she's a pretty cool character. I like kind of the magic wielder, like a Gandalf in a sense, for all of the group there.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, the Aes Sedai magic is pretty cool. Like, it just seems like it's not cookie cutter, it's just like whatever suits the situation, they're like able to do. And so I really like the magic system. But yeah, Moraine is like this ocean of calm and like the torrent of dark friends and the dark one coming. And yeah, she's just like very wise, and she's very kind of steadfast, and it's kind of like if you were in trouble, you would want Moraine to be on your side and want her fighting for you, because she would give you wise counsel, she would take care of you, and she would help see you through, and she just seems very honest and genuine. And that's kind of my impression of her. That she is an Aes Sedai worth trusting. And as we will see in later books, not every Aes Sedai is like Moraine. Not compartmentalizing. I don't care. But we are merely alluding to it, that not all Aes Sedai are like Moraine. Because if you read just the one book, you feel like all the Aes Sedai are like Moraine, like these very powerful, very wise, very even-tempered, very diplomatic people. But I mean, the Aes Sedai is just like it's a society unto itself, and there are ones there that are for knowledge, and others that are hot-headed, and others that are pride, and then you have the Black Aja, which is the people who have given themselves to the Dark One to do his bidding. So just like, but if you take Moraine as like the thing to compare all of Aes Sedai, or if they were all like Moraine, then they would just be good. But I mean, it's just like human society. There's a wide range of women who are Aes Sedai. So yeah, I'm gonna be Team Moraine. I just want her to be on my side. I would take her and Lan. So yeah, I thought great character, and just really, the majority of the magic is going through Moraine, and she's using it out of necessity and for good things, and healing people and defeating, a deadly enemy when it's necessary. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Moraine.
Yeah, and she's like I think she's a very decisive character. Like, she's like, here's the situation. Okay, here's the best course of action to get us out of this situation and to safety. And she's like, okay, we're going to do this. There's no bugger room. We're going to follow the plan and get it done. And I think like throughout the first book, you have all of like the Emmons Field people kind of like questioning Moraine if she's really on their side and all these kind of things. But like throughout the whole book, she's like doing all of these things specifically for them to keep them safe the whole time. And it's like
unwavering support. Yeah, it's like
why are you guys questioning Moraine? She's out here saving your life. Them Trollocs would have wiped you all out in Emmons Field if she didn't come around and save you guys. So it's like, I don't know. They're probably just like caught up in their head about all the bad stories they've heard of Aes Sedai.
Oh yeah,
and then when they finally
that's
meet
exactly
one,
where
they
it
have like
comes
all these
from.
They have all these preconceived notions about what the Aes Sedai are supposed to be, and then whenever they meet,
it's called
Moraine,
a stereotype, and it exists here on planet Earth.
What? No, we don't have stereotypes here.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and so yeah, they're just caught up in all the old stories and all the things that like the Gleeman would say about the Aes Sedai, and Tam's warning that the
Yes.
truth you hear is not what they say, and
Which has an element of
let's
truth
get
in it.
in. Yeah, and like words have power, and Aes Sedai always speak the truth, and we'll learn that there's a ritual that they go through that only allows them to speak the truth.
Yes.
But you know what? I've been thinking this for a long time, and this is going to be the perfect opportunity to talk about God and the Aes Sedai all in one go. So here we are.
All right. Let's go.
So I had a boss who micromanaged me, and he was very obsessed with words. And he needed a level of precision in the way that you communicated that was previously unknown to me. Like, you could not use the wrong words in the wrong spot. Like, this isn't a hub, it's a switch. And then we're going to go into the explanation on why it's a switch, and we are going to learn this. And it taught me to communicate more precisely, and I still use it, and it's a valuable skill. But I mean, to be on the hook for every wrong word that you use is a very tough situation to be in.
Yeah.
And like, it does not matter that your intention was good. Like, if you use the wrong word in the wrong spot. I was once stopped during a professional development instead of saying like drag and drop, like to highlight things on the desktop. It was stopped, and I was told that is called lassoing items in the like on the desktop. So
Stickler.
just the next level of accountability when it comes to language. Okay, back to Aes Sedai and speaking the truth. So I have learned to calibrate my speech to try and communicate things exactly as like to his specifications, but it's also made me think through things a lot more and use the correct vocabulary at the correct time, which is a valuable skill. And when it comes to truth, I have made a pact with myself not to lie, and it's going to be very hard to go through life not lying. And that's not to say that I'm not fallible, and like I may say something that is what I feel to be in the truth, but then it might have been a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
But like, if you ask me something, you're going to get the truth, because I don't lie. And there's something that I use from a discipleship journey called the balance between truth and grace. So whenever you're speaking to someone, you want to speak it in grace. So you should never come at somebody and make them feel like offended and like they're in the wrong. So you have to find where's that balance between telling someone something and then doing it in a way that they can hear it and it's graceful, and there's not like you're not stinging and like trying to hurt this person. And then there are things that I choose to say that are true, but maybe not like maybe I got home and the old me would be like, this is a terrible example, but like I just walked in the door. And that's the truth, but maybe it's like I just walked in the back door and I've been home for like half an hour. I just walked in the door.
Sure.
So there is an element of truth in that.
Yeah.
And
it's like a half
like
truth.
that's just a very short, like little example, like where I'm not telling a lie, but I'm also not being truthful. But there is this passage in the Bible that says we need to be as wise as snakes, and I think that's in Proverbs somewhere. So like it kind of makes it incumbent upon the listener to hear the things in the way that they're being communicated. So like if you have two and more God thoughts here. So there's a passage that said God delights in concealing things, and scientists, I think, delight in uncovering things. And so, if God does stuff, then that is okay, right? Because God is the truth, like God is all things good. And so if he conceals stuff, like, can we conceal stuff? But it is incumbent upon the listener to be as wise as a snake. So I can say, I just walked in the door, and then the person on the other end might say, like, but when did you get home? And then I'm obligated to say, like, oh, 20, 30 minutes ago, and I've been watching a television show or something. That's not what happens here, because I'm usually doing the pets. But like, it becomes incumbent upon the listener to hear, but that only works if both communicating parties are like truth tellers and people who like have a ethical code. Because if you know that that's the other person and you hear them say something that's not quite right, you can be like, well, let's just go back to that for a second. What do you mean? Like, you just walked in the door. When did you get home? If that's like the true thing that you're like listening and trying to find out for. So I think that because we also live in a world where people do lie and people don't tell the truth and people, do all these things. And I think that it's a way for us as Christians, and this is me going out on way existential like ground, like, don't quote me on this, but I just think this way. Like, it's a way for like us, or for me personally, I'll just say me, because I don't want other people to do this if they feel it's against the Bible, but like a way to, like, there are fools, like that's in Proverbs, like you shouldn't talk to, fools, you shouldn't get mixed up in the foolish things, but a way to talk to like maybe a fool and say like, one of these things that are true, but it's just kind of concealing. Because if you go into the whole details of something, then it's going to be messy. And it's just a way to kind of gracefully like walk through a situation that could be really sticky. Because people also think that if you are telling the truth, it's like liar, liar, where you have to tell the truth in an ungraceful way. And it has to be like, like run into it and like hit people over the head with the truth. But you can also tell the truth in a small, quiet voice. And so
the world isn't like binary.
So that's like where my like thought goes and that's the first time I've kind of articulated it out loud. But it pulls in, like, there are fools in the world, and we want to, when you let your yes mean yes, you want to speak truthfully, but God conceals things. Do we have a right to conceal things? And and then it's incumbent upon the listener to be as wise as a snake as well. If something is not making sense, to go back and be like, hey, what about this thing? So, all right, I've unloaded. What did you think of my thought there, Tyler? Go ahead.
So I'm trying to tie it back to like Moraine and Aes Sedai. So you're saying something along the lines of like there's a way to like
the truth that you hear is not the truth that was said, or something like that.
Yeah. Like there's an element of Moraine where she has to tell the truth, but there's also an element where she has to tell the truth in some capacity, but she doesn't have to tell like the whole story of like the complete truth in a way. And I think that that does speak to like how like the way the world is. Like there's a lot of situations where you can say the truth in one way. You can say the truth in multiple ways. Like there's not like a binary between like the truth or the lie. Like there's the truth, there's the lie, and then there's like a bunch of gray in the middle of all of those different things. And so like you can tell the truth to somebody in a way that's like, maybe you're telling like a partial truth because maybe they're not ready to hear the full truth in their current state. Like if you told them the full truth of what you actually thought, then like maybe you'd ruin the relationship, or maybe you'd send them off in like they wouldn't be able to handle it emotionally or something like that, where it's like
I don't think you handled that situation the best.
Yes.
Versus like you're running your life into the ground, which is my actual thought.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's different ways that you could speak the truth into a situation. And yeah, so
truth and grace.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, so Moraine kind of has like, she has to tell the truth, but there's like different ways that she can tell the truth, you know, like she doesn't have to give the whole story. That's kind of what I got out of what you were saying.
Yeah, and just like, do you think as a Christian, I feel like I'm always called to tell the truth, and like, and what do you think about the right of a Christian to conceal certain things, and not get into it if they don't have to?
Yeah, I mean, I think it like depends on the situation, but yeah, I do think it's sometimes wise to conceal things to like, yeah, like preserve pieces of a relationship, or yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Oh yeah,
I'm
because in our re-engage
like
material, yeah, it was basically like, you don't have to voice every annoyance that you have with your spouse.
Exactly.
Like, because that's not that's gonna run your relationship into the ground. Like I've seen quotes of like, you need 10 positive interactions for every 2 negative. So
yeah,
you know, in that case, I think, you know, that's a good example of like, hey, things that annoy you, and sometimes you just have to like get over yourself and be like, that's not gonna, like, this is not the thing that's gonna like take time out of our day to talk about. Like, I can get over that.
Yeah.
And we can just move on. And then again, it comes back to, are you in a godly relationship where both people are seeking Christ? Because then you can trust your spouse that they're going to fix it. Like, you know, it might not be this year, it might not be next, but like in the long run, we're all trying to get closer to God. Well, in this household, we're trying to get closer to God, and in your household. I know that you guys do a lot of reading, and you're both working at the church. So yeah, it's definitely a big part of your life. So and we can trust our spouses to work on those things. But then again, you get into the realm of people who are not Christians and who are not working on their relationship with God. And then that's when things get bitter. And then people say things because they think if they don't say it, then the other person will never change. And that's kind of how we can trust in God, just knowing that He's doing a good work in our spouse and in ourselves. And we don't, and the devil wants you to rush. The devil wants you to get into things really fast and speak your mind, and to take, you know, and to take shots. Be hasty. And God wants you to cool it down and take the long path, and understand that, you know, sometimes it takes your own, like, to master yourself before, you know, before the change is going to happen.
Yes, exactly. I think I've mentioned Jordan Peterson on the podcast before, but he has a book, 12 Rules for Life. And there's one of the rules that's something like it's basically like the clean your room rule, where like you need to fix your things in your own life before you can go out into the world and try to change everything in the world. And it's like a good principle to live by. Like, not trying to, like, if you don't have yourself together, you're not going to be able to like speak truth into the world and do it in a good way. And I think something else with what you were saying, like, there's a difference between like just always saying, like, speaking the truth all the time, and like telling the truth in specific situations. Like, you don't need to like walk around saying like your hair looks stupid, or like I hate those shoes, or like that's just like telling the truth for like no reason, just in a way that's supposed, like, designed to be hurtful to people, you know?
Oh, for sure.
So like, you can tell the truth.
Comments aren't kind.
Like, you can tell the truth, but that doesn't make it like beneficial to anybody around you, or help the relationship in any way. Like, there's like, whenever you're in a specific situation where you're trying to resolve a problem or something like that, where it's like more of like an intimate relationship and you know the person really well, like, I think those are the scenarios where you need to really think about like how you're telling the truth, and like what is the best way to go about that. And like, sometimes, like, do you need to just tell someone just bluntly and honestly like what you think, or is it a scenario where you just need to kind of like, I need to kind of say it in this particular way that they are more receptive to hear what like, if I say it in this way, they'll be more inclined to listen to what I have to say. Whereas if I just came out and said it bluntly, they would just write it off, you know? So you have to think about how someone's going to respond as well.
Because you want to be a reflection of God's character, and Jesus was not known for going around and insulting people's sandals and telling them that they didn't have good jobs, and those were not in his character. He was about, listen to my words, I can bring you life out of the death that you are in, and he like his words brought life to people, and that's also a good barometer. Like, are your words life-giving, or do they take away from the moment and take away, end up leaving hurt and scars on people? I try to make my words be as to fill people up as much as they can, and as much as I can to give it to them.
Yeah, and I mean, with Jesus, like, he didn't avoid the hard things, or he didn't avoid telling people about their sin. But he did it in a way that they were receptive to hearing what he had to say. So it was the way that he said it to those particular people. And he could do it in the best way possible because he knew who they were. He knew their life story. He knew everything about them as a person. But it's it's harder for us because we don't know everything about even the people we know the most. We don't know everything about who they are and their thought process and how they're thinking. But that's a good thing to think about, how you're going to tell the truth to somebody, is to try to emulate as much as possible the way Jesus did it, knowing full well that we cannot do it perfectly, of course. But that's part of the process of
then we'd all be Jesus.
Yeah, then exactly. We'd all be Jesus, which is not going to happen. But that's there's the church word. It's called sanctification, which is where the process that you become more and more like Jesus over the course of your Christian life. And so throughout that whole process, if you're in the Word and you're pursuing that, then you'll be able to more and more live like Jesus, and that's just part of the Christian life. And once you become a Christian, that process of sanctification starts, and it's on us to pursue that daily, consistently.
And it's
over years.
Also we learned in our re-engage group that it's also part of having a spouse. One of the quotes from the book was, in marriage, there is no place to hide because you live with a person day in and day out. They see you at your best. They see you at your worst. And then if you are in a Christian marriage, that your spouse is supposed to, they will see your sin and they will try and help you. And if you have a spouse that's after you, or you feel like they're after you, that can be very taxing. I've also had I'm divorced, and I've had, I wouldn't say that felt like I was my ex-wife was after me, but just that there was constant improvements to be made, and it fell squarely on my shoulders, and that's a very taxing way. And that's another way that you can smother someone, is by is putting it all on them and not realizing that in a marriage, this is a journey together, and that it's about picking each other up when the other person's struggling, and not when the other person's struggling, saying, hey, you need to do better, and I just need to see that, or I'm going to be upset with you. That's a good way to bury someone in emotion.
And you are remarried now. You just said you were divorced, but you are now. You are.
Oh, yeah, for clarifications, I am very happily married with my wife, and we have one daughter, and we have a magical home, and we have 2 new jobs, and God is providing very abundantly. We're super thankful, and life is hard right now. It is very tumultuous with all of these changes, because we got the new house and the new jobs all in the past year, not even the past 8 months. And so it's been a very tough transition because we have more responsibility. We are getting paid more, but Jenna and I are being put in new situations that are very tough. And so we have leaned on God, and, we did our marriage story a few weeks ago. And one of our quotes was, build your house on the rock. And then when the storm comes, that you can stand firm on the rock with God. And we feel like we've been doing that, but we feel like we have been bruised and battered in the going through of the storm. And
Yeah.
I know that I am looking forward to 2 to 3 years in the future where we are living this life that we've been living, and it's more of a rhythm to it, and we have all the things, and life will be better. But we are very blessed, and it's hard to keep your eyes on how many blessings you have when you are struggling daily with things at school, things at home, things with kids. But yeah, we recognize that we are very blessed.
Yeah. Very good.
Side quest 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 complete.
That concludes our discussion of Moraine as a character.
Yeah, right.
We have no more time to talk about her. Okay, now we can do probably rapid fire. All
right.
So we'll do Lan, Tom, and Loyal, and I don't think we really have time to talk about enemy characters, but we kind of talked about those throughout the other episodes. So if you didn't listen to those, just go listen to those or watch those to get our thoughts on that. So Lan, he is Moraine's warder, which is like so like warders are bonded to Aes Sedai, and there's a deep connection there. Something that is not necessarily shown a lot in this first book, like what that connection is like. But in the show, they do talk about that a lot more, and they make that more explicitly clear. So we'll talk more about that whenever we do our show podcast next. But yeah, I think I just really liked Lan as a character. He's obviously an awesome swordsman, and he makes make it look easy whenever he's fighting people. And he's just really protective of Moraine, and doesn't want her to get hurt in any way. And like together they are like a crazy fighting force, and like with her magic and like the connection that they have with each other, like he can kind of understand her emotions and what she's feeling, and vice versa. So I just really like that relationship between the two. And yeah, we don't really get I don't think we get any point of view from Lan at all, so we never really get to see like what his thought process is with anything. But yeah, he's just kind of like the stoic warrior protecting the Emmons Fielders and everybody else. And he's also like a scout. He'll go ahead and make sure everything is safe for everybody. And yeah, he's just a good guy, good character. What do you think?
Yeah, he's good. Yeah, I do like the Moraine and Lan duo, because if she's overextended her magical self and she's all weak, like Lan is her protector, and it makes you see that Aes Sedai aren't perfectly invulnerable, although they're heavy power, one power wielders, and Lan it's just it just kind of makes sense. He's there to protect her when she needs it, and she does a lot of the heavy lifting too. They're both, together they are a force to be dealt with. At one point in the book, it's quoted that they both would be worth 1,000 lances, and over time, their accomplishments build up. And he's just a stoic character. I think he didn't say this, but he was basically Rock is more expressive than Lan. I like those comparisons to natural things. Rock is more expressive than Lan. So yeah, good character. Enjoyed him. And yeah, he's full of knowledge too. He doesn't say much, but he's like a tactician. He breaks into the White Cloak camp. Not every person could devise a way to do that, but Lan's just I got this. Yeah. So just highly capable individual.
And I think I don't remember if this was from the first book or not, but he's like a lord, or he was a lord or something.
Yeah, it is.
He's like
it's
a king
when they
or
go to
something.
Fall Dara, they talk about Lan's backstory and how he was supposed to be a king, I think, and then his lands fell, and he was noble born, but and now he lives a life of service, just like Jesus Christ, serving other people.
Well, we don't have time for another side quest, though.
Sorry, go ahead.
But yeah, like because of that, his noble birth, like he probably is highly educated, and so like he can use a lot of that education, and now his crazy physical prowess with the blade, and like merging those two things together makes him a very capable warrior and like a capable ally to have on your side if you got to do something to defeat some enemy. So yeah, Land's awesome. And now let's move on to Tom Maryland, not Maryland. Yeah, Tom. I love Tom. He's awesome. I love the just like the he's like a happy character almost. Like he's got the music and all the stories, and he goes to Emmons Field and makes everybody he like woos everybody with their stories. It reminds me of that scene in Lord of the Rings when Bilbo is telling his story about the dragons to all the little hobbit kids. And he's like, there was 2 trolls, and they're all their eyes are like, oh, what did you do? Like that's kind of what he reminds me of. Although he's not like, he has a tough like history, so he's not like all like rainbows,
sunshine and rainbows,
yeah,
and
sunshine
unicorns.
And rainbows. Yeah, like he does have like a serious history, and like a lot of stuff has happened to him in the past. So the fact that he can kind of like look past all those kind of things and still like make people laugh and be happy is pretty cool. And I like that he's also kind of like I mentioned this in one of the other podcasts, but he's kind of like a father figure to the Emmons Fielders. Like he wants to protect them because they got mixed up with the Aes Sedai, and like we find out, he had a nephew, I think it was, that could channel, and the Aes Sedai gentled him, and then his nephew killed himself. So like just like dark stuff like that, where he has like he's seen what the Aes Sedai can do, and he doesn't want those same things to happen to the innocent Emmons Fielders. And so yeah, he's a cool character. I like all his stories, and he helps he teaches them Rand and Matt how to play the flutes and stuff, which keeps them alive throughout half of the story, which is also really great. So yeah, I don't know. Any other thoughts on Rand from you?
For Tom Maryland?
Or yeah, Tom Maryland, not Rand.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that you've said most of it. And again, like, I just don't think that we have, I don't know. We do have people in the world that are like that, but I just feel like I am not one of those people, and I like feel like I should be more, where like a personal tragedy has touched Tom Maryland with this nephew that was gentled and then killed himself. Yeah. And then because of that, he's like compelled to help Rand and Matt and Perrin because he knows what could come next for them with the Aes Sedai. And I just, and we talked about how Tom Maryland had the friend at the Queen's Blessing in Camelin, and how that person took in the crew, and just because of the relationship that he had with Tom. Yeah. And I just wish more people were like that in the world, and I, as we've said before, be the change that you want to see in the world. So I have to figure out how to be more like that, so that other people will be more like that in the future.
I was just as you were talking, I was just thinking, like, Tom kept Rand and Matt alive for like the whole book, essentially. Like, he comes with them from the beginning. He stays with them on the boat and helps them get to Whitebridge. And then in Whitebridge,
I think so,
he saves them from the Murdral and dies, although I don't think he's dead. And then he teaches them how to do the Gleeman stuff, which keeps them alive throughout their whole journey, keeping them in inns and gets them food and money and stuff to sustain them across the whole journey. And then he keeps them alive when they get to Camelin because he tells them about the Queen's Blessing where they can have a friend there and stay and be safe. And so like this whole like 75% of the book, like it's Tom Maryland who is keeping Rand and Matt alive, which is, and even after he's dead, he's like still helping, or dead. I don't think he's dead, but even after that, he's like still helping them in a way. So like just like shows the impact that he had on those characters. And like even throughout the book, like there's scenes where Rand's like, man, I wish Tom was here. Like he would know what to do. Or like, I wish I would just have someone else to talk to, like to get advice from, you know? Cause like,
sure.
I mean, you can ask Matt, but like he's cursed with the dagger. So he's not going to have any good advice anyways. And he's still the innocent, naive Emmons Fielder. He's not going to have any advice that will help them in the world in any way. So, yeah, Tom is awesome. Love him. And hope to see more of him. Okay, so let's move on to Loyal, the Ogier, which also is an awesome character, who in the show they cast really well, and I love him in the show as well. But yeah, what did you think of Loyal? Just general thoughts.
The Ogier. Well, as a like, first of all, I think that, you know, the Ogier as a people are very interesting.
Yes.
As they have their life away from human beings, they live in the steadings, and
yep.
I think that that's very interesting. And then Loyal is just like, he's a loyal character. He signs on with the Three Taviran, and he's like, I'm out to see the world, and here I go. Oh, and one thing, I was listening to our podcast. So I think this is the first time that I've listened to a podcast before recording another podcast on the same topic. And then I was like, I never said it. So here's my J.R.R. Tolkien link. It's like the Ents. The Ents, the walking trees, and they have the Entmoot, which lasts for like a week or something when they like make decisions. That's like right. Something like that humans would walk into a boardroom and like slap out in an hour. They'll be like, yeah, we'll meet for a week about this. Let's talk about it.
I think I said they were like the elves, and like how they.
Yeah, you said they were like the elves, and
they are probably more like the Ents. I would agree with that.
Yeah, and I was just thinking that listening to that one. And then he's like our navigator. He's the one who gets them into and through the ways. Well, Moraine unlocks the ways, but without him, and then. He's just loyal. Like he has chances to drop off the party, and he says, "No, I want to stay with you guys. I want to go forward with the Taviran." And even though
he wants to see history being written. Like he wants to be present for like how the Taviran will shape the world around them. Like he wants to see all of it.
Yeah, but you have to have a certain heart to do that.
Yeah,
and loyal at 90 years old, you know, being basically the rambunctious teenager of the of the Ogier.
Yeah,
you know, he's like, I want to go with you guys. Oh, this is gonna be great. So yeah, I enjoyed him. Good, steadfast character. Approval, stamp of approval.
Yeah, I agree with all of that you said there. I also like whenever he comments about like the way humans do certain things. He's like, why do you humans do things like this? Or why do you have to make decisions so hastily? Or why are you always in a hurry? Like just him commenting on the way humans do things is kind of amusing because he's like, he doesn't like understand the way humans are. And especially like, we see a lot more of this in book 2 whenever they get to a certain city where he's like, this is like too conniving for me. It's like, you got the humans have like, it's too complex the way humans think, and he's but yeah, we'll talk about that in a later episode when we get to book 2. But yeah, Loyal's awesome, and yeah, so I think that's good for character discussion. I think we can maybe spend a little bit of time. I think we could do a few more minutes here. Just thoughts on like the world building and just the fact that we could do 3 episodes on this. Well, I feel like we could do 3 episodes and other stuff, but like there was just so much in this book Like that's a
We could
testament
do
to
5
like,
episodes.
yeah, like if
there.
you really
Come
wanted
on.
to like dig down deep into certain things, but like there's just so much in this book. And like I was telling Gabe earlier about like every chapter I read in these books, I feel like there's something new about the history, about a character, or about a place, or something that happened in the past that's affecting things that are happening now. There's just so many different little details that like I'm never going to remember them all. And like I would have to like read the books over and over again to like really remember all of the details. But like I just love that about like these epic fantasy books where there's like the world building is so well done where it's like seamlessly interwoven into the story. And yeah, I don't know, it's just I just love those kind of stories because it makes the world feel like very alive and real, like there's like actual people could live there, and like you feel like the world is going on like outside of what your main characters are doing. And like I love whenever we get like we're going along with the main story with our main characters, and then we get a chapter where it's like, here's something that's happening on the other side of the whole world, that's like related to what's happening but like not directly related, like it's going to play a part in the story later on. Yeah, I just love all of that kind of stuff. And Brandon Sanderson does a lot of that in his books, especially in the Stormlight Archive when he has like the interludes between the different parts of the books where he takes like side characters and gives them more backstory and fleshing out, or it's like a different part of the story where we don't really get to see from very often. So yeah, I don't know, any other thoughts from you on just like world building and just the Wheel of Time like in general as a story?
Yeah, for sure. So with the world building, yeah, that's another thought that I had, that like Robert Jordan does a good job of framing it and like building in the history. Like when Moraine is in Emond's Field at the Two Rivers, and she's just defeated all the Trollocs, and they're saying, "Get out, you Aes Sedai witch! Nobody wants you here," to her. And she launches into this story about Manetheren and how they were a thorn to the Dark One's foot, and the Manetheren, they walked for like 5 days straight, and they shouldn't have held off the enemy forces for more than an hour, but they fought for 10 days straight on no sleep, and just
because they thought
these
reinforcements
incredible
were
stories. Coming. Yeah, and so that like. Just like, oh, you're in a town, but now you're getting like the history of the people who lived here and like why they are the way they are. They're all as stubborn as stone, and they don't, So there's that. And then there was one other thing I was going to mention that I told you I'd save for the podcast, which was I love the way that Robert Jordan does these like self-referencing like analogies, maybe. So like... he looked as mischievous as a coffin on on feast day or something. So like like you have this idea of what mischievous is, and then like he takes it and he makes it like self-referencing, like in Emond's Field, like who is the most mischievous people? It's the coffins. And so he like does this, and then he does it throughout the book, but he does it
Oh, you're saying
we talked
Matt,
about.
You're saying Matt Cawthon, the name. I thought you said coffin, like a cask.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
Okay, I understand what you're saying now.
Mispronouncing it.
Yeah, Matt.
But
Cawthon,
like he does it throughout the book. Like he does these things like as rich as the as Elaine or something, and he does it, and because you have in your head. Yeah. Like what a word should mean, and then he like references something that is like the exemplar or the prototypical version of whatever he's describing. Yeah. And to me that just seems to like he was as mad as the Dark One was or something, like it just brings the book more to life because, we make those references in our heads and we make them to the things that we know in our world. Yes. And then he's like, he doesn't do that. He brings the world's thinking to your brain. Yes. Like, oh, if I think about mischievous things, like I'm going to think about Matrim and, him pouring flour all over the dogs and letting them run through someone's house.
Because the characters in the story wouldn't know what our sayings are because they don't have any reference for what things are like in this world. And so he has to put
precisely and like we don't have a good way of like and I just don't think that I've read another author who kind of like does that, like makes his character thoughts like your thoughts.
Yes. Yeah. Something else that I really think is cool is there was I think I may have mentioned this before, but Brandon Sanderson has a podcast. It's called Intentionally Blank. And he did an episode on the Wheel of Time because the show is out, of course. And it's him just like talking about the show, some of the behind the scenes stuff with like, because he's a producer on the show and some stuff like that. But something he mentioned in that podcast is that the Wheel of Time is heavily based in like legends from Earth. And so like he pulls in, there's a character mentioned called Arthur Hawkwing throughout the book, this first book, and that's like a callback to King Arthur and the Arthurian legends that we have in this world. And
interesting.
Yeah, like part of what like the Wheel of Time is as a story is like that the Wheel of Time in that setting is our world, but it's like the wheel has went around and around and around. So like the world that they're living in now, like they're pulling legends from like our time, the legends that we have, and like we have legends maybe of stories that are similar to people that happened in Wheel of Time because of the stories that were written for the Wheel of Time in this world. So like, and that's part of like the whole thing of the Wheel of Time, where it's like a cycle and it's our world, but the cycle has happened so many times that people forget stories and they become legend. And there's things like that in our world where there's stories that we have that are legends that, I don't know, were they true stories or are they not true stories? We're not sure. So I think that's just really cool, where it's like he's pulling in a bunch of different legends throughout the world, that like throughout our own history as well, and putting them into his own stories and making them different and unique. And yeah, I don't know, I think that was a really cool like tidbit that he shared about that. And he says it, of course, better than I can, because he understands exactly what he's saying, and I'm like trying to recall it. So I'll put a link to it in the description. You guys can go check it out. If I would highly recommend it. It's a really good listen, and it also helps to give you some perspective on the TV show as well, and like why the TV show made certain decisions. But I'll probably talk more about that whenever we do the TV show episode. Yeah, I think that's gonna do it. Unless you have any other thoughts on world building or just the series in general, or first book.
No, I think we've said a lot, and I think we both have really enjoyed the book, and we're interested to see where it goes, because this is definitely a book series that does world building at like a grand level.
Yes.
So
for sure.
Just interested to see where we go from here, and into book 2, the
Indeed.
Hunt for the Horn.
Yes, the Great Hunt.
The Great Hunt.
So speaking of what's happening next, so the next episode we're going to do a show on just season 1 of the Wheel of Time TV show, just our thoughts, like comparing it to the book, the decisions that the show made that we may or may not agree with, and what our thoughts are on those things. And then after that, we're going to do the second book, The Great Hunt of the Wheel of Time. And after that, we're not sure. Maybe we'll take a break and do something else. We'll do a shorter book maybe, because these books are really long and they take a long time to read. But yeah, that's the plan right now. So if you want to stay up to date with everything Pages of Light and what we're doing, you can go to our website, pagesoflight.com, and you can follow us on social media. We're on YouTube, Facebook, Goodreads, all sorts of things. You can follow what Gabe is doing at neighborhoodnerdservices.com. And links for all of those things, of course, will be in the description, as well as the link to the Brandon Sanderson podcast if you want to check that out. And also a link to buy the book as well if you want to grab that. If you want to support us, you can go leave us a review on your podcast app on Apple Podcast. Let us know what you think of the podcast and how we can do better, or what books you want to see us read in the future, anything like that. And you can also go and subscribe over on our YouTube channel if you want to watch the video version of this podcast as well. And yeah, I think that's going to do it. Thank you very much for listening. And yes, the tagline, remember to keep reading and to share the gospel with somebody this week. I almost forgot to say it. Yeah, keep reading.
Don't forget to say it.
Share the gospel with somebody this week if you can. And we will see you guys in the next episode. Goodbye.
See ya.